Leadership is all about responsibility and accountability to the people concerned. Dr. Ngozi Orabeze said she called the finance minister to give account of the expenditures, the plus and minus of the events and activities, so that she can present to the Biafran people the summary of the expenses which they have committed their resources to. The Biafrans deserve to know any dime spent in the course of the pursuit for the Biafran restoration. And the chief of staff, acting in her own capacity, have demanded that the finance minister should give accounts, a transparent account of whatever inflow or outflow of the funds belonging to the Biafran people, which he has had oversight of by virtue of his position as the finance minister or the finance secretary. And if the finance secretary of the finance minister refuse to give account of his stewardship that borders on the monetary funds, raisins, and other remittance that is being made by the Biafrans, and refuse to give account of how the money was spent, the detailed account of the money within his own coffers was spent, the finance minister has a duty, a responsibility to the Biafrans to give account. Accountability is key. Leadership is all about accountability, transparency, and good quality in governance. Now, what is the role of the chief of staff? Let's make a very simple uh, findings here. The responsibility of a chief of staff, in general, a chief of staff provides a buffer between a chief executive and the executive director reporting team, which, of course, the finance minister is accountable to the chief of staff, while the chief of staff is accountable to the the executive, or the executive, in quote now, the prime minister and the Biafran government in general, and the Biafran people. Now, the chief of staff generally works behind the scenes to solve problems, mediate disputes, and deal with issues before they are brought to the chief executive. Under this context, we are addressing the executive to be the prime minister, the office of the prime minister of the Biafran Republic. Now, if the chief of staff is acting within the ambits of the law, the constituted law, and powers conferred on her, demanding accountability, which the finance minister, the information minister, and other direct reporting team are answerable to the chief of staff. Then the chief of staff will gather all the informations and set the record straight, and work if there is any dispute on the reports or if they do not tally with the provisions on ground, he will be able to rectify these issues and present the report to the prime minister of the Biafran Republic government in exile. There is no reason, any justifiable reason, why either the finance minister, the information minister, and other cabinets will not respond to the chief of staff. Now, ignoring or snubbing the call by the chief of staff, Dr. Ngozi Orabeze, to give account, to tender an account on how the money was used, expended, is an affront confrontation, is an insult on the entire Biafrans, because ignoring the chief of staff is indirectly or directly ignoring the entire Biafran population. And of course, the prime minister, who has the right, the absolute right, to either hire or fire. The finance minister has no power to fire the chief of staff. The chief of staff acted in capacity on behalf of the executive or the prime minister in his absence. So the chief of staff has the statutory obligation or right conferred on her to deputize, to stand, to act on behalf of the prime minister, and as well give reports, collect reports of progress or development or challenges, and table it before the prime minister. Now, it is not out of place if the chief of staff has demanded from the finance minister the accounts, details on how the money was, of course, remitted and how the money was expended. So it is the responsibility of the account minister to live up to responsibility to the Biafrans. So any attempt to disregard the call to give accounts or of his stewardship to the Biafrans is an upfront confrontation. If things should be done the right way, the finance minister should be questioned. Reasons why he refused to give account when Biafrans needed to know how much had been expended and how much is left in the Biafran treasury. So it is suspicious and it is unacceptable. It leaves a moral burden on the finance minister not to have come to defend his stewardship, to defend his integrity, and to defend his transparency in handling the finances of the Biafran population. So it is one thing, it is a total disobedience, defiance to the constituted authority. The finance minister is accountable to the chief of staff. The information minister is accountable to the chief of staff of the executive. And now the chief of staff is accountable to the prime minister. He works behind the scene to get things done so that the prime minister will get a clear view of what transpired, what went on, either right or wrong. Now, if you fail to give account of your stewardship by being arrogant or being, so pompous, or you think that she is a woman and she does not deserve to superintend over your activities and actions, is a total affront, is a total blunder, and that must be vehemently condemned. So the chief of staff is acting in the capacity of her office and being entrusted by the prime minister of the Biafrans by extension. So we have to get it right. That is the first thing. Giving account of your stewardship does not mean you are going contrary to the provisions of the United States of Biafran Charter or laws. No, rather it is a negligence or refusal to give accounts. You are usurping the authorities, the constitutional authorities, for whatever reasons best known to you. You are not subject to the constituted authorities which you are answerable to. You are answerable to the chief of staff, the finance minister, every other coordinating minister is answerable to the chief of staff. That is the position in any company, in any institution, in any government. That is how it is being run. You are accountable. Whether you're a billionaire or not, it's immaterial. You are accountable. You have to report. There are chains of reporting or line of communication. So you are answerable to the chief of staff. And when she demands your attention to give the report of your stewardship, you should not turn down on that. You should not be defiant, because that attitude is very destructive and it is an indirect opposition, not just to the chief of staff, but to the prime minister and by extension to the entire Biafrans. These are important issues we must iron out. We must set the record straight, irrespective of who's all this God. I am not on any side, but on the side of truth. I stand by the truth. My analysis based on logic, based on facts, based on information, based on what is tenable and what is right. Now, citing the Biafran Charter is another thing. When we get there, we cross the bridge. But if by virtue of your defiance or negligence to duty, because it's a call to duty when you are the finance minister, which is one of the important arm stream, the life wire of any organization, and you fail to live up to responsibilities when such calls up, then it means you are not qualified or you are not serious with such responsibility. You can't be giving excuses why you shouldn't give account if you don't have any ulterior motive or any skeleton in your cupboard. That is very clear. And people will interpret that to mean that perhaps you are trying to cover up some shady dealings. So you have to come straight and, of course, without any uh, recourse or any resentment to deliver your stewardship, and accountability is key because you have to get your name straight. You have to defend your integrity, you have to defend your actions and your stewardship. If that is not done, then it will leave a vacuum of which you have to fill either now or later in life because it is a clear indication that perhaps you could not be trusted for such responsibilities, sensitive responsibilities. The office of the finance is an important office and you can't just take it lightly. It's an important office, much important to Biafrans because it is the life wire of any organization. Now, if you've been called on several occasions, at twice, 2 times I heard from the chief of staff, Dr. Ngozi Orabeze, and you failed to comply, giving flimsy excuses, and now citing when the chief of staff decided to take drastic actions or measure to check checkmate this insubordination, you don't have to blame her because she is acting in the capacity or on behalf of the prime minister. Now let's get on to understand what are the functions of the chief of staff. Just to be very precise about that, we are learning here, we are making exposition, and this will help the Biafrans to make informed judgment. Some Biafrans are being carried away by sentiments and the whipping of sentiments and all that, citing the Biafran charter and all that. Charter. There is a place of where the charter comes in. There is a place where accountability, transparency, and adherence to the rules of engagement, the line of reporting, the chain of reporting. You can't just jump the chief of staff and report directly to the prime minister or the executive. It's never done. So if you ignore the chief of staff, you indirectly you are snubbing the prime minister. You have no regard for the prime minister. That is what you are telling. Your body language is speaking indirectly. It just finding time to express itself. If you cannot be loyal to the chief of staff, accountable to the chief of staff, which you are under the law binding to do, then there is something fundamentally wrong, and people must get to know what that is. The chief of staff, one of the functions of the chief of staff are these, but not limited to this: teaming up with top tier executive to check out and prioritize strategic business moves. That is one. Okay, in a business environment. And if there's any more important business, is the business of freedom, the business of emancipation. And that must be treated as very critical and important for the Biafran because it has to do with the life, the posterity, the future, the cultural preservations, the cultural heritage, and preservation of the posterity. So you cannot gamble it. It is not for all commerce affair. It's not for people who want to show up, who want to be defiant to the constituted authorities, who don't want to submit themselves. They don't have part in such very serious business. And that is just the business. That is just the reality. Now, being the chief of executive personal timekeeper. So is the chief of the executive personal timekeeper now orchestrating their schedule and planning essential travels. Now guiding department heads, including finance department, with expert advice to enhance overall team efficiency. To enhance overall team efficiency, the chief of staff was acting in her capacity provided by the law. So she wants to know how effective each department has been, the expenditures and uh, the inflows, cash inflows or remittance at the end of the day, so that she will be able to represent the true picture of whatever transpired and, of course, report back to the prime minister when they schedule their meetings. Now, keeping meetings focused and planning and coordinating them effectively. The persons are asking who gave her the authority to deputize the prime minister. That is madness. You are not too informed to know that the chief of staff can deputize, can act in capacity on behalf of the prime minister or the executive. And you're asking the whole chief of staff who gave her the authority uh, to deputize or to act on behalf of the prime minister in the absence of the prime minister. Now, these are one of the functions or one among the functions of the chief of staff, providing hands on support to transform ideas into reality and monitor their progress. You see, to monitor the progress of any venture, of any undertaking. That is one important. Now, acting on behalf of the chief executive or the prime minister to answer inquiries. You see, that is the function of chief of staff. For those asking where I should do, who asked you to be, these are mere cheap propagandas. And unfortunately, some Biafrans are falling victim of this. So you have to set the record by asking, questioning the office of the chief of staff of the Biafran Republic means you are questioning the entire authority of the Biafran or the constituted authority of the Biafran nation. And that will not augur well. It's a clear affront and a gross violation of the principles of law and governance. She is under the law, protected to act in those capacities. Now, serious strategic business initiative from genesis to fruition. Now, okay, pinpointing and addressing core issues within the business processes. Presenting the chief executive and all the senior leaders with detailed company operation analysis. You see, I go back to that again. Presenting the chief executive and other senior officers or leaders with detailed company operation analysis. So this chief of staff, Dr. Ngozi Orabeze, is really acting within the ambit of the law and the provision of his own office or line of action. So somebody can say, who asked you to do this and do that, is very naive and mischievous. Just to set the record straight, I'm just recounting the functionalities of the chief of staff. You can know how important that office is. It is not just about communal affairs, and it's very important that everybody must know that. Now, evaluating risk factors when making crucial. Now, let me take it again. It's evaluating risk factors when making critical business decisions. Now, some persons have condemned the chief of staff for declaring the restoration of Biafra on 29 instead of the scheduled 2nd. You see, it is the responsibility of the chief of staff, you see, to evaluate the risk factors. What could hamper the progress, the targeted, the objective? What could hamper the company from realizing its set goals and objectives? And she will act in that capacity, meaning that she has to be a foresighted personality and with problem solving skills, how to maneuver and be very smart to outsmart the enemies or those who want to take undue advantage of the process of the program and hamper the entire process. Now, acting in that capacity, the chief of staff was acting within the ambit of the law and by virtue of her own job description. She has not acted out of her job description. It is quite important that Chigozie Ndibo must set the record straight. It is time to make history, and history will always stand. History will always speak with you when you stand on the path of the truth. It doesn't matter how many people are against you, but when you stand on the path of the truth is the only weapon that can defend anyone anytime. Now, these are functionalities of the chief of staff: evaluating risk factors when making critical business decisions. As I've said earlier on, there is no other better business, there is no other serious business than the business of the Biafran restoration, the freedom and emancipation of all Biafrans who has been subjected, who are crying day and night. People are dying, of course, for the very reason that they are seeking for their freedom and emancipation. So there is no other better business, of course, than that of the surface of the earth. So the chief of staff must be very hardworking, exceptionally good for her to be appointed by the prime minister. So it's not just an all-comers affair. It's not just for Jampuri. So her taking that prompt action to beat, to outsmart the enemies is well commended. And somebody is saying that is not acting with in direction based on the Simon by the prime minister. Simon Ekpa must be proud of this chief of staff, huh, for living up to her responsibilities. And that is why today, of course, Biafrans are raising their shoulders up that attempt to truncate and hamper the declaration of the Biafran sovereignty in Finland was not truncated, because there were attempts or speculations that some people that want to use the instrumentality of law to cause chaos before the 2nd of December, and eventually the police will be invited and everything will be truncated, people will be dismissed, running headcast. So in order to avoid that, she acted very smartly and very intelligently and should be commended. Why some people are misinterpreting her action because they don't know the functionalities of the chief of staff, and they have no powers to question the actions of the chief of staff except the prime minister or the executive that will question that or want to interrogate the actions of the chief of staff, especially when it is out of place. But this one is very clear and within, of course, the confines of the law and her job description. So, evaluating these factors when making critical business decisions is one of the functionalities of the chief of staff. And Dr. Ngozi Orabeze, I must give her kudos for that and for acting very bravely, brilliantly, and very smart to have outsmarted whatever arrangement, of course, underneath or in pipe, in line to dismantle or scuttle the entire process and frustrate the actions of the objective of the convention, which today was a great success, has been recorded as Finland medias and government recognized and are aware that such thing took place. Now, but some people are misunderstanding the chief of staff. It's very important. I want to make this very brief so that I will conserve much of the time for both of us. Now, completing special projects and initiating with skillful oversights and support, leading meetings and workshops, and meticulous planning and coordination, identifying areas of improvement across the organization, and making actionable recommendations. These are parts of the functionalities of the chief of staff. From strategic decision making to minute operational details, the chief of staff roles combines comprehensive vision with a detailed oriented approach, making it a pivotal function for employers and business owners to understand and value. On this note, I rest my case. Of course, we have let the cat out of the bag, and now it depends on the audience to give their own perspective regarding this development, because it is a very record that is set straight. Let's get to know what your reactions and response are to these fundamental issues. Now, if the finance minister failed to report or defend his stewardship, give tender account of the expenditure, it is not your money, it is the Biafrans' money, and you must be accountable to the letter. And if you fail to do that, of course, such parties should be sanctioned, and stringent actions should be employed in order to serve as a deterrent to others who may want to ignore such. You have no reasons for whatever not to give account of your stewardship, and that is just the truth. So, invoking the Biafran Charter in order to cover up your insubordination, not just against the chief of staff, against the entire Biafrans, is questionable. And of course, it's something that you're answerable to. And the Biafrans are very much in anticipation, waiting to hear from your own perspective, because this issue must not be swept under the carpet. And that is just the truth. The Biafrans are seeking for answers. And the reason why you fail to give account to your superior or somebody you are accountable to, you are accountable to the chief of staff, while the chief of staff is accountable to the Biafrans and the prime minister. Thank you once again for watching. Kindly hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe and share this video so that others will get to know the latest information and revelation surrounding the circumstances, because some persons are confused. That when we set the record straight, when we define the terms and objectives, when they define boundaries, define your functionalities and duty, you must, of course, separate the wheat from the tart, and let's get it right so that people will know where their own job jurisdiction ends and where it starts, in the interest of the common good of all and sundry, so that the Biafrans can move forward and be focused to achieve that, because there are many enemies around the corner that must be confronted by all means, and some are seeking an opportunity to infiltrate and distort the entire process. Of course, and the success recorded so far. Thank you once again. I'm in anticipation for your response. I remain Chicos and Debo, wishing you all the best. Of course, Merry Christmas to you once again. And today is busking day. Can we do the busking? You know, there are no bucks here to box. Well in time, in anticipation, hoping that all is going on well with you. Let's get your response and the feedback. And we are coming back again to fire up.